let's start with a thought of, okay, what is safe for us and how can enterprises actually leverage the best practices in safe? What are those things that are required when we say, I want to implement safe, right? What I thought is, as a starter, let's start with something basic in safe, which is called as a, again, there are some configurations. The basic part in the safe is what we call as a essential safe. Again, why am I kind of concentrating on the small pieces? Let's understand the small piece, and the later webinars, we can always go ahead with really looking at the other aspects of safe. Again, could be portfolio guideline. It could be about really looking at how do we plan, how do we execute, right? So we can actually get into each of the nitty-gritties. I think, no, it's better that we make it as a series, maybe like, once in a month or so, we kind of explore one topic and actually go forward from there, right? Let me start with some basic things and what we want to do when we implement safe. Let's think about a company. Let's think about a company which is a small organization which started a few years ago, right? And what they did was they were one of the first in the market to do something new. And they were a small company of 10 to 15 people. When you have 10 to 15 people, you typically don't really worry about processes, right? So everybody does everything, right? So I kind of play a developer role. I also play the marketing role. Maybe, if there is a customer call or a customer discussion, I go and pitch in there as well. So I am the CEO of that company. Trust me, I'm the CEO of that company. So now what I do, I am interested in actually bringing out efficiencies. I am interested in going to the market faster. So even with 10 people, I start reading some material around what is happening in the industry. I get interested in one of the parts, which was Agile. And when I look at the Agile Manifesto, there were a few values which were called out, saying that people and individuals and interactions, working software, working with the customer, responding to change. I like that thought because it was not really telling me what to do and how to do, but rather why to do some things, because we want to be customer centric. Now I get a point that Agile is all about being customer centric and responding to their needs and demands. And then I also dig a little deeper. When I dig a little deeper, I get to know that some of the philosophies from Agile have come from Toyota production systems. 1950s, 1960s, what Toyota used to do, where we say just-in-time production, automation, and then you also had this reducing the wastages, right? So I also get interested on that one. I read a little bit on that one, and then I get to know that in the current world, we call it as lean. It was Toyota production system, which is called it as lean, where we want to have a flow. We want to avoid wastages. That's also very interesting because it also doesn't tell me whether it is a software, whether it is a manufacturing, whether it is marketing. Wherever you are working, you need to be aware of what's the waste, what are the wastes that you have in the system, and how do we avoid those wastes, right? And this is where even in SAFE or any framework that, for that matter, that you use, you have to really know, or you have to really think about what are the principles that we want to really care for. It's like if you are working for an organization, you have the values of the organization called out, right? Somewhere, core values of the organization, maybe customer centricity, quality first. So those are the values that are called out first. Those are very, very important and key. Forget about everything else of the planning and execution. You will always think about what are the core values and principles I'm basing myself on. So that's the first critical main component whenever you are going into any of the frameworks. In fact, if you go to SAFE, if I connect back to SAFE's principle, Lean Agile Mindset, core values and the SAFE principle, SAFE has 10 principles. Again, I'm not going to go deeper into the SAFE principles, but idea is, as an organization, you care for these principles more than anything else, because Today you might do CI/CD, today you might do DevOps, today you might have those jazzy words, but tomorrow things will change. But only things that won't change is your principles, right? So I think even in our life as individuals, we care for certain values and principles. We say that I have to have that integrity. I will be honest. I won't lie, right? So you kind of have those principles in your life. Something similar, the lean agile principles are something which is very, very foundational element for any execution. And as a CEO, when I understand that one, I also go a little deeper. Now, okay, principles are all good. Principles are all good. But how do I actually get it into an action, right? So you could talk about some philosophies, but at the same time, you need people on the ground, right? So the first and foremost is you need the people on the ground. In fact, from lean world, what I also know is, I'm muting some of you. Yeah. From the lean world, you also know that respect for people and culture is the first and foremost thing, right? So respect for the people and culture is the first and foremost thing that you want to care for. That's where I start building my teams. Yeah. And when I build my teams, this is where the second philosophy or the second concept comes in: real agile teams and the trains. You might ask me, what is a train? Wait for a minute. So the first thing that I know from the Scrum world or any of the agile methodologies world is a small team was always useful. Small team of 5 to 10 members, which has all the skills necessary to develop and deliver something useful is better. Because, I mean, again, even from the military history, it has been proven that like around 6 to 8 people's small battalion is always useful. They will work like a family, right? So the agile philosophy also talks about a small team is like a family, which is together they have all the skills necessary. They can develop, they can test, I mean, they can deploy it somewhere. They can also get the requirements. They also have maybe marketing skills as required, right? So they have all the skills necessary. So I start building this agile teams. I start building the agile teams. And as you know, I was a 15-member company. When I start becoming bigger and bigger, it becomes a little tougher for me. Why? Because now I have multiple teams. One team is concentrating on maybe one aspect of the product development. Another team is concentrating on another aspect of the product development, because every person having every skill is not a reality. So what do? I kind of create multiple teams. And when I create these multiple teams, I call them a train. I call them a train. I am putting out here. I call them a train. What is a train? If I look at a normal train, it has one engine, multiple coaches, and it runs on a track. And the analogy that I'm using, or what I'm referring to now, is these teams, multiple teams, are together. They are not disjointed or they are not different, because all of them together have to go towards one goal. So what I do now is all the teams, I get them together and say, hey, team 1 and team 2 and team 3, you are all together. This is my roadmap. This is my vision as a leader. You want to be like, say, number 1 in this space. We want to get 20% market share. We also want to push a solution to the customers which are liked by them. And in the next 3 or 4 years, we want to be known as one of the best companies in this region, right? So that is my vision that I have. So I, as a leader, give them the purpose, the roadmap, which is like the track of the train. And I also will have a lot of roles and responsibilities so that, I mean, each one can take care that engine, right? So each one can take care of that engine, take care running that train. So this is where some of the roles and responsibilities for me come in. So what I know from Scrum is, again, any of the agile methodologies is there are product owners who are your reference to the customer. Then there are Scrum masters who are facilitators, in the sense they coach, mentor, teach, facilitate, and make sure that the process is adhered to. So with this part, I kind of created the team. the multiple teams will also have these roles and responsibilities. But what I understand now is, with so many people being there, maybe around 100 people being there, it is very difficult to manage the teams as is. So we have some more roles now. I will have a product manager or a few product managers, depending on the context or the complexity of my solution, who will work with the customer, direct customer. There is an RTE or the release train engineer, who is someone similar to your Scrum Master, who will facilitate, coach, mentor the overall train. Then there is system architect, because each team, if they start running on their own, it becomes a problem, right? Each team, if they start running on their own, it becomes a problem. So these architects work with the teams to make sure that we have the right level of expertise, we have the right understanding, common tooling, common practices across, right? So the moment you have this system architect, they will make sure that the train can be maintained, in the sense, every team is going to go towards only one format, right? So the moment you do that one, you have this train now. Yeah? So I have talked about 2 factors out of the 10 factors. So I will pause for a minute here. If there are any questions, any clarifications, I want to take it up now and then move forward. You can also type in your queries. If you don't want to talk, you can put it in the chat window.
Yeah, I already collect the question. So I have one question for the Agile release train is how to identify the art.
Okay, how to identify the art? Okay, that's a nice question. So typically, I mean, what we used to do in a traditional world is there is already a program, just call it as, I mean, one art. Not really. What we try to do is we look from a customer perspective and see what is the value that we are giving to the customer. It could be a product, it could be a solution, it could be a component that we are building, right? So we look from a perspective of a value. So maybe Noah and his team is developing something, and me and my team are testing something. So customers don't want development, or customers don't want testing. What customers want is a solution given by my XYZ company, right? So what we do now is we call Ashwinee and say, hey guys, I mean, you both are actually creating something useful. Why don't we discuss around what is the value stream, or what is the start to end point for my company or for this solution? So we both now discuss and find out, some people from Noah's organization and some people from Ashwinee's organization are really needed to build this product, because each one has different skill sets and stuff. So what we do is we actually have something called as a value stream identification workshop, which we do, and create an agile release train. In fact, I think this will be one of the nice topics to have in one webinar, where we really find out, I mean, how do I create a agile release train itself, right? So we will also do that one. Yeah. One topic already I've given you, right? So idea is, end of the day, think about the customer who would be taking our solution, and from their perspective, who are all want to be there, we want to create them as a train and see who is the best fit to, who has the domain expertise, we would make them as a product manager. Who has the technical knowledge, we would make them as a system architect. A good manager or a facilitator, I mean, who can actually pull all the people together with the large groups, I mean, they can create some value. We call them as a RT, or the release train engineer. Okay, business analyst and product owner. Again, in a Scrum world, you don't have a role called a business analyst. It's a traditional word. Most organizations have kind of moved away from business analyst, or I mean, kind of renaming, rebadging them as a product owner. But what I would say is the roles here are not titles. Business analyst could be a title. They could either work as a product manager or a product owner, or just a liaison to the product manager to kind of do certain things, right? I would not call these as titles: product owner, scrum master, product manager, and RTE. Rather, they are the roles and responsibilities that you would have.
Correct, Ashwinee. Satish here, Ashwinee. Thanks for that. So from a responsibility perspective, right? So I have somewhere around 10 years of business analyst from an earlier batch from somewhere around 2004 onwards. Okay? From 2004 onwards, I have somewhere around 10 years of experience in requirements gathering, all this scope, both at onshore and offshore, doing gap analysis, fitment and everything. So now this world has moved to Agile. All from the not from a badging perspective, from a responsibility perspective or from an activity perspective, what would be the change expected here?
Yeah, if you are team facing, you would play a product owner role. If you are business facing, you will be playing a product manager role. That's where I would put you.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah. There is also.
So it's similar. The question from Hưng Nguyen: can one person play multiple roles in a safe framework?
I would not recommend that one, because most of the roles are, they have their own so many responsibilities there. So they will not be, very well suited for that one. But at the same time, in some cases where you start, right? One of the product manager could also play a product owner for one small team. Might be possible, right? If they have some bandwidth, they could play that one to start with. But at scale, when you have a complex product, I would not recommend one person playing multiple roles, right? So that's a kind of a straightforward answer in terms of each one has their own responsibilities, not just from a work perspective, even for making sure that this change sticks, in the sense, when you are changing, you will also have a lot of things moving around, right? So how do we make sure that all the moving parts are also taken care is something you might want to be aware of. Let me move to the third and the fourth dimensions. Third dimension is what we call as a cadence and synchronization. Again, what is cadence? Cadence is nothing but the rhythm, right? Cadence and synchronization. Cadence is nothing but the rhythm. Idea is, in Scrum, we know that we do a 2-week iteration or a 3-week iteration or a sprint, what we call as a sprint, 2-week sprint or a 3-week sprint. Something similar I have been doing in my organization also with 10 people. Now, even with 100 people, maybe 10 teams, I still want to stick to that, right? So every team does a 2-week sprint. But what happens is one team is doing a 2-week sprint, another team is doing a 3-week sprint, and one other team is starting on a Wednesday instead of a Monday. What happens? While everybody has their rhythm, there is no overall organizational rhythm. So that's where what we want to do is every team should start on the same day. Like every team should start on the same day. Every team should end on the same day. So this, again, I'm taking here a 2-week as an example. It could be 3-week also. Every 2 weeks, I start. Every 2 weeks, I end. In the sense, maybe Monday, I start with the planning. I do all the execution. At the end of the sprint, I do a demo. I do a retrospective to become better, so on and so forth, right? So every 2 weeks, I keep starting and ending, starting and ending. And what SAFe also says is synchronize them. Because if you want to plan together as a train, at a team level, we understand we are all together here. At a team level, we all understand we are all together here. We do a 2-week sprint. But at the train level, I want to kind of put a constraint, which is, I'm just drawing here, which is a 10-week. A 10-week window where we are all synchronized. So at a team level, you have a 2-week as a window where you are planning and executing. And at the train level, you have a 10-week window where you are planning and executing, right? So this kind of repeats again. So 10 weeks, again 10 weeks, again 10 weeks. So you keep on repeating. Again, guideline from SAFe is 8 to 12 weeks. That could be the right timeline. It's up to you. How do you want to start, right? So it could be 10 weeks, it could be 8 weeks, 4 iterations, 3 iterations, how much ever you want to do. So idea here is when I say 10 weeks and cadence and synchronization, what we are calling out is we have a rhythm, we are also synchronized in the sense, say No's team, Koi's team, my team, everybody starts on the same day, ends on the same day, so that if you want to integrate together, it becomes easy. And let's come to the train part of it. So when you say they are synchronized, what do they do? So this is where they start their journey with what we call as a PA planning. They start their journey with what we call as a PA planning. So PA planning is a 2-day event. Again, one more topic that we could do actually in a webinar is how do we do an effective PA planning? Because if you are getting these 100 people into a room and expecting something to be done from them, it has to be structured, right? It has to be structured. So what we do is we do the PA planning, which is a 2-day event here, and then plan out for the next 10 weeks. Again, it's not a detailed out planning, still a high level planning. We plan out for the next 2 weeks, next 10 weeks. And then we say, okay, for this 10 weeks, each of the teams have this as their priority. They also have dependencies. They sort out their dependencies. If they want to do something differently, they call out to their product managers, product owners, system architects, work with along them in those 2 days and plan for the next 10 weeks. So this planning is for the next 10 weeks. And trust me, while you plan for the 10 weeks, it's not hard and fast rule that you will do only those things. Because every 2 weeks when your teams are meeting, you would see certain changes. If you want to adjust, you can always adjust, right? So this planning is to create an alignment. And one nice thing in SAFE is when we plan, everybody is together. It is not that only developers are there or only product managers are there. Product managers, system architects, RTE, product owners, your scrum masters, the team members, your business owners, any stakeholders, maybe one of your executive who is sponsoring your team, everybody is together. Idea is if you have a doubt, you just walk across the room in a real world. In a virtual world, you walk across a different meeting, maybe, right? So you have separate meetings, breakout rooms for separate teams. You walk out there and talk to each other, solve the issues and come back. So the PA planning is a 2-day event, which kind of helps you to set your train into motion. In the sense, I'm going to start my train and then move forward there, right? So that's where my 3rd and 4th factors of synchronizing people and making sure that the planning meeting is done comes in. And also, this is an interesting topic because when you have the team starting on the same day and ending on the same day, when you set 2 days aside for the PA planning, it is known well in advance that, okay, you are going to do a PA planning. So nobody can say, I have some work to do. Rather, your calendar is actually booked for maybe next 1 year for those two days of PA planning. Yeah. Any thoughts on cadence and synchronization and the PA planning? I already see a question. Okay. Is this mainly focus on product tech delivery? Where can business and operational teams fit in each of the picture? So if you look at here, business and technology, when we say a train will also consist of business, your marketing, if HR is needed, if say compliance teams are needed, all of them are going to be part of your train. They are not additional. That's why we expect them to participate in all the planning and execution events, right? And most of the time, trust me, we commit back to the business, isn't it? When we do something, it is not for our own sake. We are doing those execution for the business's sake. So typically your business owners here that you see, they are your stakeholders. They are mostly going to be your stakeholders. And when you say business and technology teams, we want to put all of them together. We want to put all of them together and ask them, what is it that you want now, right? So we want to ask them, what is it that we want to do right now? Yes, I use the word sprint as a 2-week sprint. But at the same time, SAFe uses a word iteration because in Scrum, we use sprint. In some of the other methodologies, we use iteration. Different ones have different words. We kind of say it's an iteration, or I mean, kind of every 2 weeks, I mean, you are iterating towards your goal, right? Let me move on to the fifth and the sixth part of it. The fifth part calls about customer centricity, DevOps, and release on demand, right? So it's here somewhere on the red color. There's no intention, I mean, intentionally, it's not that intentionally I put a red color, just a different color, that's all it is. So when we say customer centricity, we want to focus on what the customer really needs, right? So this is where, I mean, we all stand, because end of the day, companies exist for making a profit and making sure that we are moving in the right direction. That's what we want to do. And then when we say DevOps, it's about development, operation, and also in the current world, all the other teams coming together and working together, right? So I think, I mean, some of you would have heard the word DevOps. It's not just about the tools and the technology. It's also about culturally people coming together. When we say development, usually they want to build something new. When I say development, only not the coders, anyone, I mean, who is building a new product, right? And operations is your release management, operational team, which is making sure that you are putting a stable solution to the customer. And also, you should be able to release based on the demand from the customer. You could be 10-member team, you could be 100-member team, but at the same time, you have to make sure that you can release based on the demand from the customer. So this is where your release on demand patterns come in. The sixth factor that we would talk about is the system demo, right? So this is just here. Any one of you who uses Scrum, you know that every 2 weeks, you would make a new build, call your customer or the representative of a customer and showcase a demo to them. Likewise, even in SAFe, what we want to do is every 2 weeks, once the teams have demoed or once the teams have shown their what they have built, we want all the teams together to integrate that and showcase the complete demo. Maybe like Nose team has, I mean, just done the search feature. I have done the cart feature. Somebody else has done some business GDPR requirements, right? And a compliance team has built on some more mechanism for saving the credit card data securely. Now, all of us want to integrate together and showcase the demo. This is what we call as a system demo. Any thoughts on the system demo or customer centricity? Yeah, Noah has put.
Can we share such a showcase of items, product increments that are going to be delivered?
Sorry, I didn't get you.
Can we share that the product increments that are going to be delivered as a system demo, that you show them what is going to come into system?
Yeah. And then it again in SAFe, I mean, it is a technical decision that, I mean, we do that. Okay, I'm ready with this one. I'm going to show you, right? But what goes into the market is always release on demand, where the business says, okay, you have shown me 10 features, but as of now, it looks like 5 features are good enough for the market. I'm going to push 5 features, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I have a question here.
Yeah.
So let's assume each and every iteration or a sprint has 5 items that will be developed as part of the product increment deliverable. No, assume that the go live happens every 4 iteration as per the PA plan.
So, no. Again, go live can happen anytime during the PI. That's why, I mean, we call it as a release on demand. And it's a business decision whether we want to do it every 2 weeks, every day, or I mean, once in 10 weeks, depending on the context that you have.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, got the context.
Yeah. So idea is, I mean, you keep on developing on a rhythm, but the business will keep on telling you that, okay, looks like, I mean, these 2 features are nice. Can we push it to the market? Maybe sometimes they might say, say if you are a bank, you don't want to push every day. Rather, you would say once in a month, I will push this.
Yeah, it depends. Yes, correct.
Yeah. So SAFE is some way connected to the business side and the development side. Exactly. Right. So it's not like what stand out, and as you have rightly called out, Nan, I'm not sure whether I'm pronouncing your name very rightly. We are not mostly focusing on the development side alone. We are also focusing on the business side and making them the stakeholders in the room. Right. So that's right. Okay, criteria to evaluate whether your organization can implement SAFE or not. I would say 2 or 3 things that you need to take care. One is, you should have a bigger enough problem, right? If one team can solve a problem, I don't suggest you to implement SAFE. But when you have multiple teams which need to come and have an alignment, this is where SAFE kicks in. The second factor I would say is, again, you could be still working in waterfall and directly move to SAFE. But if you are already having some notion of Scrum or any other agile methodology, that will be useful because you are already kind of have a head start, right? So I would rather say, teams will start implementing Scrum or Kanban or any other methodology, then move towards the next steps. And let me go back to the 7th and 8th thoughts. The 7th thought is what we call as I'll pick up a different color. 7th thought is what we call as inspect and adopt. This is nothing but a retrospective for the train, right? So in a team level, you would do a retrospective every 2 weeks, but in a train, you would do retrospective every 10 weeks. Once in a PI or the program increment, what we call the 10 weeks, you would do a retrospective. This retrospective is little structured in the sense, you don't just go and say what went well, what didn't go well. Rather, you use some of the lean tools like fishbone diagram, Pareto analysis, then brainstorming techniques to come out with what is the actual root cause. Because maybe one team tells we are committing but not able to deliver. You don't want to pinpoint a finger point on them and say that, okay, say that team is very bad. Rather than that, you want to address the root cause. Why are they not able to do it? Maybe 5 why analysis. Ask a question of why 5 times. Then you come to a conclusion that maybe architecture is not robust. That's why they are struggling, right? So you want to come to a root cause there. So this is where the inspect and adopt workshop will help you to kind of structure your thoughts on what is the right problem to solve for you. Then 8th factor that you have is IP iteration. IP is innovation and planning. So if you look at this picture, let me erase some of them. All of them, maybe. What I was talking is inspect and adopt and IP iteration. If you look at this big picture here, I'll make it a little bigger also so that we can all see clearly. So if I see this 10-week window, right? 2 weeks into 5 times, you see this is busy here. There is something happening. There is something happening. There is something happening. But at the same time, what you also see is the last iteration is kept blank, which is just called as IP iteration here, which is just called as an IP iteration here. So this is intentionally kept blank. You don't take any business features. Rather, you kind of do the planning for the next PI. So when you hit this 10 weeks, the last 2 days, you would do the planning for the next PI or the program increment, next 10 weeks. So there, you spend 2 days. Inspect and adopt event is typically half a day event. So you spend half a day there. So 2.5 or 3 days is almost gone for your planning purposes. Other 7 days you are left. What you will start doing is you will start seeing what is coming up next, start doing some exploration, start doing some prototypes and proof of concepts, right? So you'll start doing those things. So IP iteration is a placeholder for you where you will only think about what is coming up next, what is the future holds for us, right? So you will start exploring those future. So IP, innovation and planning starts exploring those pointers for you, right? Any thoughts around inspect and adopt and IP iteration?
why it called innovation?
Sorry. So again,
Why the innovation is in it? I mean, the word innovation, what does it mean?
so
What
innovation
is it
could,
for?
innovation could mean multiple things. I mean, one is something is coming up next in the 3 months, 6 months. You want to really spend some time, dig deeper into that one. Maybe you have some nice idea about a new product. You want to take some time off and maybe like say, I'm in one team, Han is another team, and No is another team. We three want to work together. Otherwise, I mean, on a day-to-day basis, we are not able to work together because we have our own team's priorities also. In the innovation and planning iteration, maybe we will get together, we three will get together, and those 6-7 days, I mean, we will work on that new idea and present it to the management or present it to our stakeholders. They might like it. So idea is to break the people on this monotonous, keep on doing the work, rather stop for a while, maybe think about something new and become better. It could be new, could be about what is coming up next. I will do some prototype, proof of concepts, or it could also be about new product development. It could also be about we want to learn the new version of the tool that we are using, right? I mean, I can also spend time for that one. It's up to the teams and their Scrum Masters, RTs to really see what can we do, what can we learn better in this IP iteration. And also don't think innovation is something very big. Innovation is anything that is new and useful for your stakeholders. It could be internal or external or anything.
And IP is different with tech debt. So please take care about this.
Let's come to the last two parts, which is just make it a little easier for all of us to see. Yeah. Which color should I choose? I don't have too many colors. Okay. So the 9th part is called as an architectural runway. So runway is seen in an airport. And how do we build the runway? You don't build all the runway on day one, right? So what do? You know, okay, this is the airport. This is the overall area that it has. There is a boundary. You put the boundary, right? So you know this is the farthest point from the airport. But at the same time, you build a small runway so that some new smaller planes can come and land. Smaller cargo planes or some of that can come and land. What will happen? So the moment some planes come and land, you will start making some money, right? So you don't build the entire runway for the 10 years and then start saying, okay, let's land the planes. Rather, within 1 year, you will build some small runway, planes will come and start landing. Architecture also is something like that. Architecture also is something like that, where you start with what you know and you build that runway and you kind of then what happens? Then you will start building even more runway. While these small planes are coming and landing, you will build some more runway, right? So you know the boundary here. If I kind of put it here, you know the boundary, but you also have built this runway. Small planes are coming and landing. Maybe small features are coming and landing. While these features are coming and landing, you will also extend the runway a little bit. Then somewhat bigger planes can come and land or new features can be added. You will also keep extending this runway till there is a limit, and features or the planes can keep and land, keep coming and landing. And like a runway, you also have to build this runway plus maintain it on a daily basis also. Architecture also is something you have to maintain it on a daily basis. It's not that you will build the architecture and then forget about it. Rather, you will build and maintain the architecture. That's why architecture is called as a runway, where we will build the architecture, plus we will also maintain the architecture. And the last and the most important piece, like the first piece was important from a principal perspective, in agile leadership. I have to be a leader who kind of believes in lean and agile ways of working. It's not that I just talk about agile, but rather I will also really learn about agile, actually see what are the execution patterns that I want to implement. I just don't talk about agile, but also I kind of make sure that I have the common and the real understanding of what is agile. and I teach my people. I also encourage my people to learn about lean and agile, what it is. And when we say leadership, leadership is about two things: leading by example and leading the change. You have to lead by an example. You can't just keep on talking about what is leadership and what is agile and how does it help. Rather, you have to show an example for the people. Your behaviors also should be some like the lean and agile way of working. And when you say leading the change, you're not telling everyone that, okay, you will implement Scrum, you will implement SAFe, and you will go back to your work. Rather, you also be in the forefront. That's where, I mean, we are kind of calling them as even the leaders will work as maybe business owners. They might work as a product manager if they are a domain expert. They might work as a system architect. And trust me, when we say leader, it is not the only like the CEO of the company. Everybody is a leader in their own right. A Scrum Master is also a leader because they have to uphold the processes at the team level. Yeah, RT is a leader at the train level because they are going to talk about what is safe and train people, maybe mentor people as well. Yeah. During PA planning, is it allowed to reduce the scope and adjust the PA objectives we have already defined in the PA planning previously? Yes, it's always possible, right? So you work with your business, your stakeholders, and really see what can be done, right? So because the business will tell you what needs to be done and when it needs to be done. And the teams will have to decide how can we do it and how much can we do it, right? So the business can ask the world, but at the same time, you also have certain capacity. So you will have to have a balance between both of them. So this is where the PA planning plays a crucial role, where everybody comes together and starts thinking about and how do we actually do it or make it happen. Maybe business will say, these are the 10 things we need to do. The teams might say, the 9th thing is very difficult. 9th thing is very difficult. There are also so many unknowns. There are also nothing available for us. So can we drop off 9th thing and maybe take the 11th thing? Maybe business will agree for that one. Or business will say, within that 9th item that I have, what is known for you? Can you build that known thing first and then think about the something else? Maybe in the search feature, think about, again, just a simple example comes to my mind. Search feature, simple search, we will be able to do it. But the predictive search, when the people put something erroneously, can I suggest, I mean, do you mean this one, right? So maybe that feature will be done later. Maybe that's something, I mean, we want to work with the teams. Who is the owner of the architectural runway? Typically, it's the system architects who are the owners of the runway, architectural runway. They work with the product management to make sure that the right level of architecture is built.
Hey, Ashwinee, I have a few questions.
Sure.
First one is regarding the resources. Let's say I have 20 mobile developers, and those developers will use in 2 apps.
Okay.
But it's not enough. So how to fix this in the real scenarios? Like, this is a real question from my company.
Okay, so again, SAFe has a constraint of around 150 people for one agile release train. Typically, I mean, when it moves beyond 150, we would have 2 agile release trains and 2 or more agile release trains. So this is where the next configuration also comes in, which is called as a large solution. We can actually have multiple agile release trains working together. In fact, I mean, that could be, I mean, one more webinar where we will talk about multiple trains. Again, they will have some more coordination roles. Right?
Yeah, but the question is, I only can have 20 people in my team. I'm not allowed to recruit more people. So, but then how to service those release trends if I don't have enough people? Because you have to divide my people into separate agile team, right?
Okay.
Yeah. I have 10 agile team, and each team require maybe 6 developers. So 6 times 10 is 60 developers. So I don't have enough. But I don't allow to recruit more. So how to solve that?
Got your question. And SAFe has a guideline around 50 to 125 people is the right size. It's not just, 100 plus always. It can be 50 people also. Maybe less than 50, you don't need SAFe because it's a smaller team. You can have, just a coordination among yourself and you don't have to do SAFe. But when you have more than 50 people, it makes sense to call it as an agile release train, multiple teams.
No, but my company is an enterprise. Like I'm working in a bank.
Okay.
Yeah, and my mobile team is only have 20 people, which is the front-end developers and back-end developers,
Yeah.
And now we are going to, do the agile transformation in the whole bank.
Sure.
But the problem is the business have a lot of trend, they have a lot of value stream. And nowadays they are using the mobile applications. So if we decided to choose SAFe, and we have to provide my developer into separate agile teams, right? So let's say one team has around 5 to 6 mobile developers, but I don't have enough people. So that is the very tough scenario now for me.
Yeah, you again, from the outset, I also have this suggestion: can be you work as a shared services, right? You are outside the train, maybe working as a Scrum team, but at the same time giving your services to the train. You can also actually work like a shared services, but you will still have to participate in the planning and the execution meeting.
Yeah, but if shared services, then the PI happen in the same time. So let's say one people have to join 2 teams. How it happened?
Yeah. So again, can you think about a few people or the representative from the shared services, your team actually participating in the PA planning? That could be one way.
All right. And then the second question is about the innovation sprint. So which is also 2 weeks, right? So if my boss say I'm not allowed you to spend 2 weeks for innovation because the business side during the PI, right? They already do the research, the market research, and those things, like they already thinking about the business opportunity. So they don't need 2 weeks to do innovation, because if the first PI end and the next PI you begin, right? Then during the first PI, the business side already have some idea to implement in the next PI. So the innovation sprint is not allowed to happen in my organization.
That's where again, SAFe suggests leaders to go through the education first. In fact, leaders go through the courses first, and then everybody else goes in. So only if they believe, they trust in SAFe and this works out, then they have to implement. Again, that's where we say leaders have to believe first. That's why
but I think it also makes sense because during the PI time, right?
Yeah.
The development team is doing the delivery work, and the business side is doing their design things, their researching things, their R&D things, right? So they're 2 work streams, right? The business side and the development side. So I think in some way, it also makes sense that we don't need 2 weeks for innovations, because we also have kind of hackathon event in a year, or maybe half years. Yeah. So those kind of event also for innovation things.
Yeah. Again, trust me, 10 days goes in as you put just a normal click, right? In fact, 2 days are allocated for PA planning, half a day is allocated for inspect and adopt. All you have is 7 or 7.5 days, right? So trust me, it is what I have seen in my consulting assignments also is people can come up with very, very nice ideas and actually work on them. And also it gives them some time to actually look at the features that are coming up for the next 10 weeks. If you go to the PA planning without any preparation, what will happen is you will not do well. You will not do well. Rather, you will keep on thinking about, what is next. In the PA planning meeting, you will start digging about that feature. What we want to do is we want to have some homework done on those features and actually come to the PA planning and suggest the business the better way of doing those features, right? So we want the teams to suggest the business on how do we do it better, right?
Okay.
And
the last,
yeah.
And the last question is, let's say the PI planning start on Monday, and the Agile team planning also start on Monday. So
no. What we typically do is, I mean, if you see this IP iteration last 2 days, maybe Wednesday or Thursday, you do the PA planning, and then next Monday onwards, everybody does the team planning, right? So every Monday they keep on doing the PA planning. So here it might happen on a Wednesday or Thursday or a Friday. Then Monday onwards, you will start your execution.
That's because you have the IP and iterations, but we don't have that, so that answers the problem. Okay, all right, thanks.
Thank you. There are some questions around again technical debt. No, thanks for answering that. We can do it through the PA planning or also during the execution. You can always adjust the scope. PA planning, who should attend? Everybody should attend. Input out of the PA, input is your vision and the features that you want to do. Output will be your objectives and the features that you are actually taking it up, right? Could you recommend some techniques to do PA planning effectively? I would suggest, one more webinar of an hour to really kind of go through the PA planning itself, right? So 2 days of PA planning. There are a lot of nitty-gritties involved, but the one thing that I can tell is the RT has to be very strong. Your release train engineer who is going to facilitate this whole event, they have to be very, very strong to really kind of do it well. Yeah. We're also almost at the end of the hour. I'll wait for any last questions.
Okay. Hello. Maybe I want to have a quick question regarding to most of the team I has been working on, and even with my current team, we moving from the Scrum to Scale Agile framework. And previously, because we are doing the Scrum, we have 2 weeks continuously delivery the product. But then when we move to Surf, we have 2 weeks of preparation for the upcoming circle, right? So that for the internal teams, for my team only, and also for the up-high manager, even the business owners or the product owners, they are all good with the last 2 weeks of, let's say it's cooldown week. Is what we call at the moment. But then the problem is with the customer, they are too familiar with 2 weeks having new thing on the product continuously. And then when we've moved from Scrum to, from the sprint to PR, and then we have such kind of, gap time and more them during that 2 weeks. So that there's some question in terms of the business, because in the user power bill, they want something new, they pay for us to do the product, and so that we have the alignment with the customer, but not all of them are supportive for such kind of thing. So it's kind of hard for us to convert them to training them. So is there any suggestion from not you, just everyone in the call, how to deal with such a situation?
Yeah, my suggestion is start with the training for them also. Really make sure that they understand the value of innovation, because many a times we get stuck with what we know rather than really thinking about how do we actually do the innovation part of it, right? So innovation also doesn't mean that you have to find something big. You also have to really think about how do we take care of what is working today, how do we make it robust, infrastructure, adding more value to the customer, and also maybe involve the customer into this innovation part also, right? Kind of get your suppliers, vendors, and customers also into the mix. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Right. So thank you. We'll try. Yeah.
Thank you, Ashwinee, and all of you. I think we still have many questions from our situation. Yeah.